Hey beauties. So I was reading something on Jamaica Observer, either Jamaica Observer, Jamaica Gleaner, and a particular MP from the PNP stated that we need to not blame the government for the various crime and violence that you see, basically escalating and increasing in our country, that we need to basically blame the homes. And you know what the individual is referring to: the type of parenting that the child receives or the children receives. I've often said it, and I encourage people to go and read two psychologists. They're probably clinical psychologists as well as social scientists. Jean Piaget, it's spelled Jean, it's spelled Jean. And I don't remember the man's first name, but it's Vygotsky. And you will see how they promulgate the important years. This is something that they have clinically proven in general. And don't bring in an exception to the rule. You'll always find some exceptions to the rule. We talk about general principles in life. That is how something becomes scientific, when it can be repeatable several times, consistently. Now, the 0 to 7 years are significant. 0 to 12 is really the full and complete, learning years, I would say. But 0 to 7, you kind of set the foundation. And then the other 5 years is when you kind of now lay certain things on that foundation. And then thereafter, the house starts to build on the basis of the foundation and other layers that may be needed. A lot of bad parenting, improper parenting are happening in this 21st century. Yes, across the globe, but I will speak about my country right now, because this is a country that I would want to see heal and to become the country of countries, the envied country, the sought after country, not just for its beaches, for the beauty in terms of the physical infrastructure or the trees and nature and so on, but in terms of family life, in terms of a nuclear family, in terms of when majority of the households has a husband, a wife, child or children, if they can have child or children, or they adopt if they choose to, or just the two of them. Not just the mother predominantly growing and raising the child. The father is equally important, and we face a lot of social ills, a lot of the crime and violence because of bad parenting. I can break down the bad parenting, not just in terms of absenteeism of the father predominantly, because you do have absent mothers, but also the type of behavior that the mother and the father demonstrate. So when you find a mother is overbearing and controlling, the child sometimes end up with very dysfunctional behavior and dysfunctional attitudes. It's like they're not socially fit. There's no symbiotic relationship between them and other people that they mix and mingle with. And when they don't get their way, then they unleash their wrath in basically unlawful, unethical, or immoral ways, because of what it is that they learned. And if all their senses are in place, meaning the eyes, the ears, the nose, the mouth, the touching, tasting, the 5 senses, hearing, touching, seeing, tasting, feeling, or something like smelling, you learn through your senses. When they constantly face negativity at home, they become negative people in the society, and that is what the society will push out, because they're now going to join the wider world. So that MP is absolutely correct. I put it between 80 to 90% of the crime and the violence in various forms that we face in this country, it is because of improper parenting, bad parenting, bad parenting, poor parenting. And yes, the absenteeism father, because we generally sometimes feel as though, maybe the mother is more important than the father. And And so the father is secondary. No, it's ironic. If you read the book of Exodus, when it was talking about the 10 commandments, Exodus 20 or thereabout, it says, honor thy father and thy mother. So it's ironic. The father was actually called first. That, you know, honor. The father is equally important. You can know the homes, and even if you become successful in life, for the child who never has a father, there is always that emptiness. And the only being that can fill that emptiness is God. The only being, even if you get married and your husband loves you world without and treats you well, there is still that missing feeling. And only God can close that gap if you didn't get it. Somehow he knows how to do it. But the MP is absolutely right. A few years ago when Lisa Hannah had gone to a particular remand center, she said there were some girls there. Anyway, one kind of was sleeping on her shoulder. And while she was talking with the other girls about their situation and whatnot, the girl just got up, like she just flew up and said, oh, I know I'm going to kill my mother. And she said, what? She never said, well, she didn't borrow the word what. I'm like that, you know. She said, why would you want to kill your mother? She said her mother tortures her. Her mother tells her the worst things. She tells her terrible things. And it will ignite. And the seed was planted of anger. Then it turned into bitterness. And it turned into resentment, unforgiveness, hate. And then it will lead to murder. Because that's bad parenting. Because the mother herself obviously is a broken person. She probably faced bad parenting and she didn't know what to do. So when frustration reached her, which is usually frequently, she just poured that frustration on the child. Couldn't care less. Because the child is vulnerable. Child has to take it. And then the child now becomes a nuisance. That's why she's in the remand center. You think it's government cause her to be there? It's not government cause her to be there. With a government opposition, you know what I mean? Not the government. I am not saying that sometimes based on what, you know, I mean, I read a particular book called Born for Dead, that they don't aid. So when they see you like that now, if somebody's just as our, in the reverse, if somebody sees potential for you to become a medical doctor, a lawyer, an actuary, an actress, singer, they invest in you. So when they see you, look, you have the potential, it sounds bad to say this, to become a murderer, a thief, a scammer, some socially unfit person, oh, they will fuel that fire. They will invest in that fire. So I'm not saying that some of the politicians are to be blamed, but the foundation and more than the foundation had already begun from the home. The homes are bad. There are some frightening things that I've heard that I've heard of, even daughters being involved with their fathers. I'm not talking about a sort of a sexual molestation. It's like the child is in consent. Although psychologically I don't believe the child is in a good place, because you cannot be thinking that that's a good thing. You cannot be thinking that that is a good thing while the man is married comfortably and the woman knows. So it's not about only kick up and box up, meaning the person has to be in a home that is verbally abusive or physically abusive, but psychologically and emotionally that child is abused. For her to think that it is okay to be involved with your father, romantically, sexually. Outright relationship that people can see. What? That's demonic. And a lot of the bad behaviors we see today, predominantly it's because of the homes, not government. I'm not saying that some of them did not aid in toppling over the big bunch, and then that avalanche being created where we have a lot of crime and violence. I guarantee you, if we were to interview every one of those guys who are in gangs and aiding in the crime and the violence, and they're being paid to do this, ask them about their home life. And if you come back and tell me that one of them said my home life was good, and I say, well, I guess this is the exception to the rule. But the general, I guarantee you, 9.5 out of 10 going to tell you home life was terrible. Terrible. And sometimes you have overbearing mothers who are controlling and they treat their children badly. Herbert Gale did a study on it. That many of them became the recidivism rate, meaning you keep going back into the jail cells because of how they were socialized and they weren't properly reformed and rehabilitated. Not the government cause it. They're not the primary source. Bad parenting is. Guys, follow me on TikTok, subscribe to my YouTube channel, share this message.